My child, stop. Whatever you were doing before this moment, set it down. What I am carrying for you today cannot be delayed, not by your schedule, not by your hesitation, not by the voice that tells you this can wait. It cannot wait. I am here right now, and what I have in my hands for you has a specific moment attached to it, and that moment is now. This is not a message you were supposed to find tomorrow. This is a message that was positioned for exactly this second of your life, for the exact version of you that exists right now, carrying exactly what you are carrying and needing exactly what I am about to give you. I know what you are carrying. I want to be specific about that because I do not want you to receive this as a general spiritual encouragement meant for a crowd. I am speaking to you, the you who has been moving through this season with more on your shoulders than you have let anyone fully see. The you who has been faithful in the small things, even when the large things were not resolving. The you who woke up this morning with a weight that was still there, the same weight from last night, from last week, from longer than you want to count. I see that. I have always seen that. And I want you to hear what I am about to say very carefully. What I carry for you today is not a consolation. It is not a spiritual pat on the shoulder. It is not encouragement to endure a little longer while nothing changes. What I carry for you today is actual weight being lifted from actual places. It is specific, and it is real, and it is arriving today, not eventually. Today is not a placeholder. Today is the day I chose before you ever sat down to watch or listen to this. I want to speak to the weight first, because you cannot receive what I am bringing until you understand what I am taking. The weight you have been carrying in this season has a shape. I want you to name it, even just to yourself, right now, not out loud, just in the private space between your chest and your awareness. What has been the heaviest part? The thing that comes to you first in the morning and sits with you last at night? The thing that is always just beneath the surface of whatever you are trying to do? That thing, that is what I am speaking to first. Some of you are carrying the weight of a situation that has not moved in months. You have prayed and believed and spoken and done everything you knew to do, and the situation is in the exact same place it was when you started. And the fatigue of that is unlike any other kind of fatigue because it is not physical. It is the fatigue that comes from sustained belief with no visible evidence. That specific tiredness, that is real. I am not dismissing it. I am acknowledging it completely, and then I am going to show you what it means in the larger picture of what I am doing. Some of you are carrying the weight of relationships, of people who were supposed to be present and are not, of connections that should have been easy and have been complicated beyond what feels fair, of loneliness that coexists with being surrounded by people, which is one of the strangest and most isolating forms of aloneness there is. I see that weight too. I know what it costs you to keep showing up in spaces where you feel fundamentally unseen. Some of you are carrying the weight of your own mind, the thoughts that will not quiet down, the patterns that keep returning no matter how many times you address them. The gap between who you know you were made to be and who you see when you look honestly at where you are right now. That gap is painful in a way that is very hard to describe. It is not self-pity. It is the ache of a person who can see the distance between their actual self and their intended self and does not know how to close it. I know that weight by name. I formed the person you were intended to be. I am the one who knows how to close that gap, and closing it is part of what I carry for you today. My beloved, let me tell you about the nature of what I carry. When I say I carry something for you, I am not speaking metaphorically in the way humans use that phrase. I am not saying I share your burden the way a friend walks alongside you, carrying part of a heavy load. I am saying I take it completely. I lift it off you entirely. I carry it in a way that means it no longer belongs to you, not partially, not mostly, completely. When I take something from you, you are free of it in a way that nothing else can produce. Comment, I trust your timing in the comments if you feel this message reaching the place I made it to reach. And what I am carrying for you today, right now, in this moment, is the delay. Not the thing you are waiting for, the delay itself. The delay is a weight separate from the situation. You have been carrying the situation and the waiting and the not knowing and the wondering if it will ever change and the managing your own expectations and the keeping your faith alive, even when it is hard. All of those are separate loads, and I am taking all of them, starting now. I call this the faithful carrying, and I want you to hold that name. The faithful carrying is what you have been doing without recognition, without audience, without the visible reward of forward movement. Remember it. You did not stumble onto this message today by coincidence. You were routed here. I routed you here because this is the message I needed you to receive at this exact point in the journey. The timing of this is not accidental, and it is not arbitrary. Everything in your life that led to this exact moment, including the very delays you have been carrying, was used to position you here at this second, ready to receive what I have been holding until now. I want you to breathe for a moment. Right now, just breathe. And I want you to notice something happening as you breathe. There is a slight shift in the place where you hold the heaviest of what you carry. A loosening. That is not imagination. That is what happens when I speak to a weight. The weight responds before the mind processes it. The loosening you feel right now is real, and it is the first thing I am giving you today. But I am not done, because the weight being lifted is only the beginning of what I carry for you today. The second thing is more significant, and I want to take you to it slowly because I want you to receive it fully, not pass over it quickly the way you sometimes pass over blessings without letting them land. I see you in the early morning, before anyone else is awake, before the demands of the day have arrived, in the quiet that exists before everything begins. I see you in that quiet with your thoughts and your prayers and your honest conversations with me that you do not have with anyone else. I see what you say in those moments when it is just the two of us. I see what you are really asking for underneath the words. I see the deeper longing beneath the specific requests, and I want to tell you that I have been listening to every single word, every single one. Not one of them was spoken into empty air. And what I carry for you today is the answer, not the partial answer, not the preliminary movement that hints at an answer coming eventually. The actual answer, the one you have been building your faith toward, the one that has been forming in the unseen space while you were doing everything you could with what you could see. I have been building it this entire time, and today I am carrying it to you. I know what you are wondering. You are wondering what that means practically. You are wondering how you will recognize it when it arrives. You are wondering if you have missed it somehow, or if it is really coming, or if this is the kind of encouragement that sounds right but does not cash out into anything real in your actual life. My child, I know that thought. I placed a question like that in your spirit on purpose because the question itself is a form of readiness. You only ask whether you will recognize the answer if you actually believe an answer is coming. That question is not doubt. That question is faith that has been waiting so long it has started to wonder about the logistics. And I want to answer it. You will recognize it because it will carry my signature, not a generic version of goodness, not a coincidence that could be explained away. Something that has the specific quality of a personal answer, shaped for you, arriving at the exact moment it was meant to arrive, in the exact form that addresses the exact thing you have been carrying. You will know. You will know in the way you know things that come from me, not because you figured them out, but because they were given. My child, there is something I want to speak to now before we go further into the provision. I need to speak to the doubt that may be sitting quietly in the back of your heart right now. I know what it says. You are wondering if you have prayed the same prayer too many times, whether there is a point at which repeated asking becomes evidence that the answer is not coming, whether the length of the wait has already given you your answer, just not the one you wanted. My child, I am not offended by that thought. That thought is the honest conclusion of a mind that has been carrying a sustained effort without visible return. Hear what I am about to say directly. There is no threshold at which repeated faithful asking becomes too much. There is no prayer census at which I start declining. What feels like a ceiling is not a ceiling. What felt like your prayers hitting a wall was the wall of the preparation not yet being complete, not the wall of a closed door. Every prayer you prayed during this delay was received. Not one bounced back. Not one failed to register. The difference between a prayer that is heard and a prayer that appears unanswered is timing, and the timing belongs to me. What I carry for you today cannot be delayed. That means the timing is now. The prayers are now collecting their answer. And I want to tell you something about how provision works in this moment, because there is a dimension to what I am carrying for you today that includes your mind, not just your spirit, not just your circumstances. Your mind specifically, the way it has been operating under the weight of the delay, the way it has been running on a kind of low-level exhaustion from sustained carrying. I have prepared something for your mind too. There is a reason this came to you specifically today. I want you to sit with that for a moment without rushing past it. You are not here by accident, and you are not here because the algorithm served this to you randomly. You are here because I arranged for you to be here. The very path that brought you to this moment, every click and every pause and every scroll, was guided. I am not exaggerating when I say that. I am telling you the literal truth about how I work in your life. And what I want you to understand is that the thing I am carrying for you today has been ready for longer than you think. The delay was not in the provision. The provision was complete. The delay was in the preparation of the receiver. You were the one being made ready, not because you were lacking, because the size of what I prepared for you required a version of you that the journey was building, and that version is here now. You are ready to receive what I have been holding. I want to speak to you about the mind I designed you to have, the one that operates at its full capacity, not the diminished version that emerges from sustained weight-bearing. There was a scientist in New York City, a doctor who spent his career studying what the mind was actually capable of when it was fully activated, not partially, not at the fraction most people use, but the complete version. What he found was remarkable. And I want to come back to that because it connects directly to the provision I am carrying for you today. Stay with me through what I am about to show you. The practical dimension of this is as real as the spiritual dimension, and both are arriving today. Stay with me. What I am about to show you goes deeper than encouragement. I am about to take you into the architecture of what I am carrying today, so that you understand not just that provision is coming, but how it is structured and why it is arriving at this particular moment and not before. I want to go to the places you do not take people, the rooms you close the door on before the conversation gets anywhere near them. I want to go to the specific quality of grief that lives underneath the weight you have been carrying, because the weight has a grief inside it, and I am carrying that too. The grief is not just about the delay. The grief is about what the delay has cost you, the things that were different than you expected, the experiences you held hope for and then had to release, the versions of your life that were real possibilities and then became closed doors. I want to speak to the grief of the closed doors, because I know how many there have been in this season, and I know what it costs you every time you walk past one. There is a particular kind of loss that comes from a door that was almost open, that showed real signs of opening, that you could feel the warm air coming through, and then it closed. That loss is not dramatic in the way that sudden losses are. It is quiet and it is cumulative, and it sits in a specific place that is very hard to name. I know that place. I am speaking directly to it right now. Some of you have been managing grief for so long it has become indistinguishable from your baseline. You have integrated it so thoroughly into the way you move through your days that you sometimes forget it is even there until a moment like this one, when someone speaks directly to it, and something in your chest recognizes itself. That recognition happening right now is not accidental. That is me reaching directly into the specific place you keep most private and saying simply, I see this too. I have always seen this, and I did not look away. The grief you have been carrying is not a sign that your faith is weak. That is a lie I want to correct immediately and directly. The grief is a sign that you had real hope, and real hope, when it encounters delay, feels something. That feeling is not weakness. It is the evidence of genuine investment. You cannot grieve what you did not believe in. The grief is proof of the faith, not the absence of it. And I want you to hold that differently than you have been holding it. I want to speak to the version of you that has been apologizing for the weight, the one that keeps trying to seem fine in spaces where fine is the expected presentation, the one that smiles in the right places and says the right things and carries the full weight of everything privately because bringing it out into the open feels like a burden on others or a failure of trust in me. I see that version of you. That is the version I am speaking to most directly right now. You do not have to be fine. Not here. Not with me. There is a space between your spirit and mine where you are allowed to be exactly as heavy as you actually are, where you do not have to perform faith or manage the impression you are making. I know everything that is true about where you are right now. I know it more specifically than you know it yourself, because I see not just the surface of it, but the root and the history and the full depth. And I am not alarmed by any of it. I am not disappointed by any of it. I am present with all of it. My child, I need to speak to something specific here. I need to speak to the thought that may be living quietly in the back of your spirit as you receive this message. You are thinking that your situation may be the exception, that the provision I am describing, the answer arriving, the weight being lifted, is something that happens for a general class of faithful people, but that your specific case has features that put it outside the reach of what I am offering. You are wondering whether the details of what you are carrying are too particular, too complicated, too far along in the wrong direction. My child, I am not offended by that thought. That thought is what prolonged carrying produces in the mind. It is a protection mechanism masquerading as discernment. The truth is this: I do not carry provisions for general categories. I carry them for specific people. What I am carrying right now is not a broad supply that gets distributed to whoever claims it. It is yours. It has your name on it. It was constructed around the specific details of your situation, the ones you think make you an exception, not in spite of them. Those details are not obstacles to the provision. They are the reason the provision is specific. What I carry for you today was built for the exact weight of what you are holding, not the average weight, yours. And from that presence I am carrying something to you today. The second dimension of what I carry is this, and I want you to receive it with both hands. I am carrying the truth about what the delay meant, not the story you have been telling yourself about it, not the interpretation that says it is taking this long because something is wrong, the actual truth. And the truth is that the delay was a form of protection. The delay was mercy. I know that is hard to hear when you have been in it for as long as you have been in it. I know it can sound like a spiritual rationalization for a situation that has simply been painful. I am not asking you to pretend it was not painful. I am asking you to receive that the pain had a purpose, and the purpose was not punishment, and the purpose was not that you were forgotten, and the purpose was not that I had stopped working on your behalf. The purpose was that what I had prepared for you was so specific that the version of you who would have received it a year ago, or 2 years ago, or whenever you first started praying for it, was not the version of you who could fully inhabit it. The earlier version would have received the gift and not been ready for the weight of it. The gift would have been there, and the container for it would have been too small. I was not withholding. I was expanding. I want to show you something. Let me take you to a specific moment on the other side of where you are now. It is early morning. You are standing somewhere that carries the particular texture of answered prayer. Not dramatic, ordinary, but the ordinary has a different quality than anything in this season. Your body is not in the low-level brace it has been in. The first thought of the morning is not the weight. The first thought is something simple, something present, something that belongs entirely to that moment and not to the long accumulation of the delay. Your chest is open. Your breath is lower. You have become, without fully noticing when the transition happened, a person who is no longer managing the weight. Because the wait is over. What you are receiving in that morning is not what you would have received had the answer arrived earlier. You would have received the gift. But you would not have received the version of yourself that is standing in that moment, the patience that became rootedness, the faith that became something you know from the inside, rather than practice from the outside. The depth that the long carrying built that is now simply part of how you carry everything. That version of you in that moment is not available without everything that came before it. The provision and the receiver arrive together. They always do, and you are almost there. I want you to look at yourself for a moment through my eyes, not through the eyes of the person who has been carrying the weight and feeling the absence and managing the delay. Through my eyes. What I see when I look at you right now is someone who has been in the furnace and has come out without the smell of smoke. Someone who has walked through something that would have broken an earlier version of themselves and has come through it with their spirit intact. I want to speak to your faithfulness. Because you have been faithful in this season in ways that were only between you and me, in the private keeping of your commitment when everything visible was telling you that the commitment was not paying off. That faithfulness is not invisible to me. It is recorded, and the reward carries the exact shape of what you have been faithful toward. Let me show you something. Let me take you past today, past the season of the carrying, into a moment not far from where you are standing. You are in the middle of an ordinary day, not a dramatic one. Nothing ceremonial about it. You are doing something simple, perhaps something you do every week, and you notice that there is something different in how you are doing it. The weight that has been the background of every action in this season is not there, not reduced, not managed, gone. Your body moves through the task without the low-level brace that has been part of how you occupy space. A thought about the future rises in you, and instead of the familiar calculation about whether to trust it, there is something quieter, a settled knowing. As though the version of you doing the thinking and the version of you who trusts my promises have finally arrived at the same place at the same time. You set something down on a table in that moment, literally, something ordinary, and you notice your hand is open when you release it. That open hand is the sign. The faithful carrying is finished. The receiving has begun. That moment is not far away. It is the other side of today. Now I want to address something you have been wondering, something that lives at the edge of your thoughts in the quiet moments when you let yourself be fully honest. You have been wondering whether the delay means something is fundamentally different about your situation than you thought, whether the thing you have been believing for is actually coming, or whether you need to release it entirely and recalibrate your expectation. That question is one you have not fully said out loud, but it has been present. And my answer is direct. The thing you have been believing for is coming. I am not asking you to keep believing for something that is not on its way. I am telling you it is on its way. The delay was not a redirect. The delay was a preparation. The destination is unchanged. The arrival is closer than the length of the waiting would suggest. And the reason it feels like it has been longer than it should have been is that the scale of what is coming required a scale of preparation that matched it. You were not ready 2 years ago. You are ready now. That is the full explanation for the timing. And the timing, my child, is precise. What I carry for you today arrives in the exact moment it was always designed to arrive, not early, which would have been too soon for the prepared version of you, not late, which would imply I missed something, exactly on time. The only clock that matters is the one I am keeping, and according to that clock, today is when this provision was scheduled to land. Everything is on time. Remember what I called this, the faithful carrying. It was never invisible to me. It was never ordinary. Every day of carrying without visible return was recorded. It was always the most significant work of this season, even when it felt like the least significant. The faithful carrying is what made you ready for what arrives today. Not wasted, recorded. Not unseen, witnessed. The carrying mattered. And now I want to go to the specific shape of what I am bringing, because it is not one thing, it is 3 things arriving together. The first is peace. Not the peace that comes from circumstances resolving, which is always fragile, always contingent on things staying favorable. The peace I am carrying is the kind that exists underneath the circumstances, that is present regardless of what the surface shows, that you can access in the middle of the difficult things rather than only after they are done. That peace is arriving today. The second is clarity. You have been moving through a fog for portions of this season, a fog where you could feel me and believe in the general direction but could not see the specific next step with the clearness you wanted. That fog is lifting. The clarity that is coming is not just mental clarity. It is the kind of clarity that lives in the body, in the knowing that comes before the explaining, in the settled sense of direction that you feel before you can articulate why you feel it. The third is provision. I'm not going to be vague about this word. I mean actual resources arriving in actual forms in your actual life. The provision is coming, not as a vague eventual possibility, as a specific reality attached to this specific season. And the thing I want you to understand about the provision is that it includes something for your mind in addition to your circumstances. Stay with me as I show you what that means. Stay with me. In the next part of this message, I am going to show you how the practical provision arrives. How what I carry for you today includes not just peace for your spirit, but tools for your mind and abundance for your life. All 3 together. Let me bring you back to the scientist I mentioned at the end of the first part, the one in New York City, because what he found connects directly to what I have been carrying for you, and I want you to understand the connection before I show you what it is. His name is Dr. Daniel Barone, a neurologist who has spent his career in New York working with people whose minds were not functioning the way they were designed to function, not because of disease, but because of an activation problem. Most people, he discovered, are operating with only a fraction of their brain engaged, not because they are intellectually limited, because the 2 sides of the brain were not designed to operate separately the way most of us use them. They were designed to work in complete coordination, both sides firing together, communicating with each other in real time, each one contributing what the other alone cannot produce. When that coordination happens, something remarkable changes. The mind does not become simply more efficient, it becomes qualitatively different. The way you process experience, the way you receive and hold and integrate information, the way your thoughts connect to each other, all of it shifts at a fundamental level. You start operating at the version of your mind that was always there, that was always the design, that most people never access simply because no one showed them how. Now, I want to tell you why I am bringing this to you in this specific message, because I did not include this by accident, and I do not want you to treat it as a detour from the spiritual content. This is not a detour. This is the provision for your mind that is part of the same package as the peace for your spirit and the resources for your life. I carry all three. And the peace for your mind is this. I want to tell you about a woman I want to call Ellie. She came to the work Dr. Barone had developed, carrying a weight that had been in her family for 3 generations. Her grandmother had struggled, her mother had struggled, and she had grown up carrying the quiet certainty that she was next in line for the same pattern, that the generational weight was going to continue in her the way it had in the women before her. She found the tool Dr. Barone had developed. She used it 8 minutes, once a day, and after 6 weeks, something shifted. Not dramatically in the first week, quietly at first. The fog began to clear, the patterns began to interrupt themselves. The grip of the generational weight began to loosen in a way that years of trying had not produced. She sent a message with 3 words. The family curse is broken. That is what happened when the mind was given the tool that matched how it was designed to operate, not a cure, a key. The key that fit the lock of what the mind was always capable of, that unlocked access to the version of mental and spiritual functioning that was the original design, and that is what I am pointing you toward right now. What I want you to understand about that outcome is that it was not produced by a belief shift alone. The belief was already present in Ellie before she used the tool. She had been praying and trusting for years. The belief was not the missing ingredient. The missing ingredient was a mind that was capable of holding and integrating at the level the belief required. When the mind was given what it needed to activate fully, the belief that was already present could finally land in the way it was meant to land. I want you to sit with that for a moment, because it changes the way you understand why some things that you have believed and prayed and trusted toward have not yet fully manifested. It is not that the faith was insufficient. It may be that the instrument the faith was working through was operating below its designed capacity, and that is not a failure. That is a gap that can be addressed. That is a gap that is being addressed right now in this message. I have been watching you believe. I have seen the quality of your faith in this season, and I want to tell you it is not small. What you have maintained through the extended waiting, the sustained believing without the visible evidence, that is a quality of faith that very few people sustain for as long as you have. The believing itself is not the issue, but the mind through which that faith is being expressed, the mind that is trying to receive the peace I am offering and hold the clarity I am giving and integrate the provision I am bringing. That mind has been running under its designed capacity, and that matters. And here is what I want you to hear about the genius switch, because that is the name of what Dr. Barone built. It is called that for a reason that matters to you, not because it makes you smarter in the way that standardized tests measure, because it activates the genius capacity that was always in the mind I gave you, the original design, the full version, the one that was present before the weight began to accumulate, before the sustained carrying began to narrow what the mind could hold, before the delay began to affect the quality of your mental reception. 8 minutes a day, that is the access point, and the activation builds over time, gradually and then completely. The people who use it consistently describe the same thing, a quality of mental spaciousness that was not accessible before, a clarity that makes the next step visible in a way that sustained carrying had prevented. I want to tell you something about the timing of this provision being in this message specifically. I chose this message because the title of what brought you here is about what I carry for you, and what I carry includes this. The practical provision for your mind is not secondary to the spiritual provision for your heart. They are the same provision arriving in 2 forms. I carry both. I carry them together, and both are available to you right now through the link in the description. What I have placed in front of you is not a suggestion. You came here for encouragement and you are leaving with that. But you are also leaving with something that addresses the instrument through which the encouragement is received, so that what I give your spirit can actually land fully, both, today. Because what I carry for you today cannot be delayed. I want to address what you might be thinking. You might be thinking that this sounds like something for a different kind of problem than the one you have been carrying. You might be thinking that what you need is spiritual, not neuroscientific, and that a brain tool cannot reach what is at the root of your particular weight. I want to speak directly to that thought. The mind and the spirit are not operating in separate compartments in the way that framing suggests. What happens in your mind affects what you can receive in your spirit. What the mind is able to hold and integrate and process directly shapes your capacity to take in what I am speaking to you. The weight you have been carrying has affected your mind as well as your spirit. The sustained carrying of heavy things changes how the mind processes experience, narrows the range of what it can hold open at once, makes the kind of expansive receiving that this moment calls for more difficult. The tool I am pointing you toward addresses that specifically. Now I want to show you how what Dr. Barone developed works. What he discovered is that the left brain and the right brain, when operating separately, each produce a limited version of what they are capable of. The left processes logic, sequence, analysis. The right processes pattern, emotion, synthesis. But neither alone produces the fullest version of intelligence. What produces the fullest version is what Dr. Barone called whole brain activation, the state where both hemispheres are communicating in real time, each one amplifying what the other brings. The science behind this goes back to Dr. Roger Sperry, who received the Nobel Prize in 1981 for his research demonstrating that the two hemispheres function as distinct but complementary systems. Dr. Barone built on that foundation to develop a way to reliably produce whole brain activation in 8 minutes. I want to be very direct about what this is not. It is not the brainwave products that are common online. It is not Hertz-based audio or frequencies that claim to entrain your mind into specific states. Those approaches work on only one part of the brain and produce, at best, a partial effect. What Dr. Barone developed works differently. It activates the coordination between both hemispheres in a way that is not about audio frequencies, but about the mechanism of how the two sides begin to work together. That is the distinction that matters. And the result of that activation, in the people who have used it, is not a performance enhancement in the narrow sense. It is the experience of receiving more fully, of being able to hold more at once, of the kind of mental spaciousness that makes the peace I described available not just conceptually but as an embodied reality. This is why I am pointing you here, not as a supplement to the spiritual provision. As part of it, the price of what Dr. Barone created is $39 today. The usual price is $49. The investment is small against what is at stake, against the weight you have been carrying, against the provision that is arriving, against the version of your mind that has always been designed but has not been fully accessible. And there is a complete guarantee. If you do 8 minutes daily for 60 days and you do not experience the shift, you get every cent back. There is no risk to finding out whether this is the key that fits your particular lock. There are 4 tools that come with it, tools that support what the activation makes possible, that work with the opened mind rather than against the closed one, that complete the package. And I want to add a warning, because there are versions of this online that are not the original. Copies on YouTube and Spotify that someone uploaded without authorization. Those are not what Dr. Barone made. They are incomplete. They do not carry the mechanism that produces the full effect. If you are going to try this, use the original. The link in the description is where his team made it available. I want to say one more thing about timing. You might wonder why this message, this discovery, this specific provision is appearing in your life today. My child, nothing I do is random. The same way the displacement was not random. The way this message appearing in your path is not random. The way you staying until this moment is not random. I do not send provision before the prepared person is ready to receive it. You are ready. That is why this is here. That is why this is now. The tool is ready. The guarantee protects you. The home is prepared. All 3 dimensions of what I promised are present in this moment. Your spirit, your mind, and your life. I have covered all of it. And all that remains is your one step of obedience. What I place before you is never random. What is in that link is part of what I carried today. That is why it is here. That is why you saw it. That is why it is not going to leave your awareness, even if you try to pass it by. I want to close this part by saying something that I will build on in the final section of what I have for you today. My child, you are in the final part of what I prepared for you today, and I want to use this space not to add more content to what has already been given, but to help you receive it, to help it land, to help you cross the threshold from hearing to actually holding what I have been carrying all along. What I carry for you today cannot be delayed. I said that at the beginning, and I want to return to it here at the close because I want you to understand what that statement means now that you have walked through the full weight of it with me. The delay you have been living inside is not the same thing as what I carry. What I carry was never delayed. The provision, the peace, the clarity, the tool for your mind, all of it was ready before today. All of it was prepared. Today is not the day I finish getting it ready. Today is the day I deliver it to you. There is a difference between a delay in preparation and a delay in delivery, and understanding that difference changes everything about how you receive this moment. I want to speak to the part of you that is sitting in this final section wondering whether what you felt in the earlier parts of this message will stay, whether the shift is something that will remain when the practical demands of your life return, whether what opened in you will still be open by this time tomorrow. That is an honest question. I want to give you an honest answer. The shift is real. It happened in your spirit before your mind had finished processing the words that produced it, and it will remain real in proportion to one decision you make in the next few minutes. Not a complex spiritual practice, not a sustained effort of will. One decision. I will give it to you before this message ends. But first, I want to stay with you in what was given, because I do not want you to move past what happened here without letting it fully land. I want to speak again, slowly, to the grief I addressed in the second part of this message. Because the grief in you is real, and it has been real for a long time. And while the weight is being lifted, the place where the weight was will feel tender for a little while. That is not a sign that the lifting failed. That is the natural response of a place that has been compressed for a long time beginning to expand again. The grief was real. I am not undoing that by speaking to it. I am honoring it by calling it what it was. You genuinely hoped for things that did not arrive on the timeline you expected. You genuinely invested in possibilities that looked different than you thought they would look. You genuinely carried more than should have been one person to carry alone. All of that was real, and I am not asking you to pretend it was not real, or to reframe it in a way that dismisses what it cost you. I am asking you to let me carry the cost of it, to let me be the one who holds the accounting of what the delay took, and to let what I carry today be the beginning of what restores what was given. My beloved, I want to speak to what comes after this message, not in a week, not at some future point when the provision has visibly arrived, today, this afternoon, this evening. What I am asking of you for the rest of today is very specific, and it is very manageable. I am asking you to stay open. That is the decision. Just stay open. Do not let the first difficult thing that happens after this message ends close what was opened here. When the weight tries to return, because old patterns do return to test whether new things are real, when that happens, do not panic. Do not interpret the weight returning as evidence that nothing changed. Interpret it as a test of whether you are going to hold what was given. And the way to hold it is not to clench. It is to breathe, and to remember, and to say, quietly, in the space between your spirit and mine, I know you are carrying this. I am letting you carry it. That is all. That is the assignment for today. Stay open. Let the chapter change even before you can see the external evidence of the change. Because the chapters always change on the inside before the outside catches up. The inside change is real. It is the one I am asking you to guard. And now I want to speak to where you are going, not in vague spiritual language, as specifically as I can. I see the life that is on the other side of this season. I see the actual quality of it. I see the external conditions that are coming, not just the internal peace, though the internal peace is real and it is arriving. I also see the practical shape of the provision, and I want to tell you something about the size of it. The waiting has had a narrowing effect on your capacity to hope at the full scale of what was originally given to you. That is natural, and it is not your fault. Hope that waits long enough begins to adjust itself as a form of protection against further disappointment. The hope gets smaller, the expectation gets more modest. The vision gets edited down to something that feels safer to believe in after so many seasons of not yet. I am expanding it back, right now, in this moment. I am restoring the original size of what I showed you before the delay began, not the adjusted version, not the modest version that the long season taught you to settle for. The full original, the one that felt too large to hold on to in the middle of the in-between. That is the one that is on its way. And I am asking your spirit to expand back to receive it at the full size it was designed to be. You are not someone who is going to look back at this season and wonder what it was for. You are going to look back at it with a clarity that only the other side provides and see exactly what each part was building. The long mornings, the parking lots, the sustained believing without visible evidence, the private conversations between you and me that no one else saw or heard, all of it is going to make sense. All of it is going to be visible as the exact preparation for the exact thing that came after it. Not one day was wasted. Not one prayer was spoken into empty air. Not one moment of faithful forward movement was ever invisible to me. I want you to hold that, not as a future promise to be believed someday, as a present truth to be received right now. The work of the delay is complete. What it was building is built. And the thing it was building you for is on its way. Those are not three separate statements. They are one statement in three parts. The delay is complete, the building is done, the provision is coming, together, now. And because I have told you everything I am carrying today, and because you have received it, I want to bring you to the specific peace I asked you to stay for at the end of the first part, the peace for your mind. The Genius Switch is the name of what Dr. Daniel Barone created, the tool that activates the full version of the mind, both hemispheres working in coordination, the way the mind was always designed to work, in 8 minutes a day. I showed you what it did for Ellie. That is what I am pointing you toward. The link is in the description. Go there after this. Not because I am asking you to buy something, because I am carrying provision to you today that includes this, and dismissing what I carry is the one thing I am asking you not to do. What I place before you is never random. What is in that link was placed in this message deliberately. I routed you to this message specifically. I arranged for this provision to be in front of you specifically, on this day, at this moment, when you needed it most and were most ready to receive it. The timing is not coincidence. The offering is not accidental, and the link is not optional in the way that casual suggestions are optional. This is part of what I carry. My child, let me close by returning to what I have been carrying today, all of it, held in my hands for you, waiting for this exact moment to give it to you. I carried the truth about the delay. You know now, it was not abandonment, it was preparation. I carried the peace that exists beneath the circumstances and does not require the circumstances to cooperate to be real. I carried the clarity. The fog is lifting. The next step is becoming visible. Let it become visible without reaching for it before it arrives. I carried the provision, the specific, practical, real provision that is attached to this specific season of your life. And I carried the tool for your mind, the one in the description, the one that addresses the instrument through which all the rest of what I carry lands and is received and is lived. I want to speak to the specific quality of love that has been present in your life through this delay, because what I carry is not just provision. It is the fullness of a relationship that was active and present and working on your behalf through every moment of the waiting. I was not absent in the delay. I was most present in the delay. The delay was not a season of my withdrawal. It was a season of my most concentrated activity on your behalf, in the unseen space where the preparation was happening, in the places you could not see or feel or measure. And I want you to hold that, not as a theological concept, as a lived reality. I was with you in every early morning that felt like nothing was moving. I was with you in every moment of sustained believing without evidence. I was with you in the parking lots and the quiet evenings and the conversations you had with me when there was no one else to talk to. That presence was never diminished by the length of the delay. If anything, the presence deepened as the delay lengthened, because the weight you were carrying called for more of me, not less, and more of me is what you received. You are not entering this new chapter alone. You are entering it with a full understanding of my faithfulness, tested and proven and established through the exact circumstances that felt most like the opposite of faithfulness when you were in the middle of them. That understanding is not academic. You know it in the way that only lived experience can teach. You know what it is to hold on without seeing, and now you know what it looks like when the holding is honored. I want to close by speaking to the people around you, the ones who have been watching your season and wondering, the ones who have been rooting for you in quiet ways, or worrying about you in quiet ways, or simply waiting with you without fully understanding what you were carrying. When the provision arrives, and it is arriving, they are going to see something. They are going to see the fruit of a season that made no sense from the outside. And the fruit is going to be so specifically suited to who you are and what you needed that there will be no other explanation for it except the one you have always known. I was at work. The whole time. I was always at work. Now like this, as a declaration that you received what was delivered. Write in the comments even one word. Write received. Write I believe it. Write today is the day. Those words matter. They are an act of the Spirit that seals what happened in this message. Share this with the person in your world who is carrying the most right now. They need to hear that what I carry for them cannot be delayed either. And subscribe, because I am not done bringing things to you. The provision does not stop here. The next chapter is full. I love you, my child. What I carried today is yours. Walk forward carrying nothing that I already took from you. The weight is mine. The provision is yours. The chapter is new. That is the full report of what happened here today.